Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about what's happening with the internet in Russia, because the Kremlin is now tightening its grip on digital access in a way that is raising serious questions, not just about security, but about control, economic impact, and freedom of information. Now, before we get into the details on any of that, could I ask anybody that hasn't subscribed yet to please hit that subscribe button? It really helps me with the algorithm and also puts a smile on my face. So what exactly is happening with the internet in Russia? Over the past few months, we've seen a clear and accelerating trend. The Russian authorities are increasing restrictions on internet access, blocking platforms, slowing down services, and in some cases, shutting down parts of the network entirely. But one of the most interesting developments, and one that perhaps hasn't had much attention, is the way that these restrictions are being implemented. Because in many cases, this isn't always a straightforward ban. Instead, what Russia has been doing is deliberately degrading the performance of certain platforms. So rather than officially blocking an app or service, they're effectively strangling it, slowing it down to the point where it becomes frustrating, unreliable, and in some cases practically unusable. And from a technical perspective, this is believed to involve tools like deep packet inspection, traffic filtering, and bandwidth throttling, essentially identifying specific types of data and restricting how quickly that data can move across the network. So videos don't load properly, messages are delayed, connections drop out, and over time users simply give up. We've all had that feeling, haven't we? You tried to use something a few times, it doesn't work, you think, oh, I can't be bothered, and you use something else. Now, why is this significant? Because it allows the authorities to avoid the optics of outright censorship. They're not saying necessarily this platform is banned. They're just making it so difficult to use that people naturally migrate away from it. And at the same time, they're promoting state-approved alternatives. So what you end up with is a system where access still technically exists, but in practice, it's being controlled. Alongside this, Russia has been developing what's often referred to as a sovereign internet, a system that allows the state to reroute traffic internally, limit access to external platforms, and, if necessary, isolate the country's internet from the rest of the world. We've also seen specific actions being taken against major platforms and individuals. There have been investigations into figures linked to messaging apps like Telegram, increasing scrutiny of foreign-owned platforms, and moves to encourage the use of domestic, state-backed communication tools. There are even reports of efforts to build a national messaging platform, essentially bringing more of the country's communication infrastructure under direct or indirect state control. At the same time, there have been broader disruptions, internet outages, regional shutdowns, and restrictions on widely used services. President Putin has defended these actions, stating that they're necessary for national security. The argument from the Kremlin is that Russia faces ongoing threats from cyber attacks, foreign interference, and the spread of misinformation, and therefore needs tighter control over digital infrastructure. And to be fair, every country is dealing with some version of this challenge. Cybersecurity is a real issue, disinformation is a real concern, governments everywhere are trying to balance openness with protection. But what we're seeing in Russia goes significantly further than most, because this isn't just about protecting networks, this is about controlling the flow of information. And when you start restricting platforms, slowing access, and guiding users towards state-controlled alternatives, it fundamentally changes how information is shared. It also raises serious questions about freedom of speech. Because if access to independent platforms becomes unreliable or unusable, then the range of voices people can hear becomes more limited. Transparency is reduced, and narratives become easier to manage. Now, alongside this digital control, we're also seeing a broader tightening of the system. There are reports of expanded powers for Russia's security services, including proposals for their own detention centres. So this isn't happening in isolation, it's part of a wider shift towards greater control. And all of this is happening at a time when the economy is already under pressure. Because restricting the internet doesn't just affect communication, it affects economic activity. Modern economies rely heavily on connectivity. Online shopping, banking, logistics, digital services, remote work, All of these depend on fast, reliable, open internet access. If you start degrading that infrastructure, even indirectly, you create friction. Businesses become less efficient, international partnerships become more difficult, innovation slows down, investment becomes less attractive, and for individuals, everyday life becomes more complicated. Whether it's running a business, making payments, or simply staying connected, these restrictions have real consequences. So while the stated aim may be security, the economic cost could be significant. And this is where it links into the broader, wider economy, because at the same time as these controls are increasing, there are signs of growing pressure within Russia itself. According to recent data, President Putin's approval rating has been declining, falling for several consecutive weeks to its lowest level since the war in Ukraine started. Now, it's important to keep that into perspective. Support levels are still relatively high, around about 70%, but the direction of travel is notable. And there have also been warnings from political figures about the risk of social unrest if economic conditions continue to weaken. Now, I'm not suggesting that a revolution is imminent, I don't think it is, but when you combine economic pressure, declining approval ratings, and increasing control over information, you can begin to understand why the Kremlin frames this as a security issue. From their perspective, controlling the digital environment reduces the risk of instability. But from the other side of things, it raises concerns about freedom, transparency, and long-term growth. And that's really the key tension here. Security versus freedom, control versus openness, short-term stability versus long-term economic development. Because while tighter control may provide stability in the short term, over the longer term, it risks isolating Russia further and slowing its progress in an increasingly digital, interconnected world. So the key question going forward is, how far will Russia go in tightening its control over the internet, and what will the long-term consequences be? So I'll keep you posted on any further news and developments on this and other stories. Hopefully you found today's video useful, informative, and most importantly, thought-provoking. If you've liked what I've said, or maybe you didn't like it, but you thought it was interesting, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Don't forget, I'm currently running my competition where you can win my property or a cash alternative prize. There is a limited amount of time now left on this competition, so if you've been thinking about getting involved, now's the time to do it. Got some great deals on the go right now. You can see those by scanning the QR code on the screen now or clicking the link in the description below. Thanks to everyone that supported me in other ways. If you bought me a coffee, sent me YouTube super thanks, or signed up as a patron or a member, thank you for that support. Really helps to keep me going. Joe and Naz is now live. This is a new channel that I'm involved with one of my best friends, Naz. We're bringing fun, food and banter to the YouTube channel and the internet wider. So if you'd like to have a look at that, it will definitely put a smile on your face. It's a bit light-hearted, but it's also interesting to see us going to different places. In our latest video, we went over to Dublin and tried a full Irish breakfast, which is different to a full English. So if you want to find out what happened, then please check that out. There's a link at the end of this video that will take you straight through to it. We do need some more support. We haven't quite ticked all the boxes in terms of YouTube's requirements yet. So we're not being paid anything yet. We haven't earned any money. So if you could help us out by watching a video and subscribing, that would be fantastic. But in the meantime, here is something to put a smile on your face.